Sheila, could you hear me?
Yes.
Can you pass that over
Okay.
recording
And
ability?
we are live, everyone. So good evening and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I'm glad that you've joined us tonight, whether you're on the Zoom call with us, whether you're replaying, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, if you're on Apple TV or Amazon Fire or Roku, welcome, 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 wherever you're watching us and in whatever time zone. Thank you for joining us. So tonight, I'm very excited. We have a wonderful special guest, Sperry Andrews, but I want to give just a few little tidbits of information before we get started tonight. I want to remind everyone that on the 21st of this month, we have a free presentation called Soul Vibes with Jenny G. You can sign up for the event on Eventbrite, or you can just get a hold of me and I'll send you the information, Sheila at sheilaseppi.com. And Jenny will be asking everyone to bring with them their birth date, their the time that they were born, the location that they were born, and then she's going to be selecting from the audience, and she'll be doing live readings as well as giving us an overview of 2023. Then at the end of the month, on the 28th and 29th, I'm excited that we have the the Ancient Galactic Wisdom Conference through Portal to Ascension. And I'm super excited because this is one of the fundraising events that we do for the Galactic Alliance every year. It's only $55 for both days. So please come out, try to join us. And then nothing more special than tonight having our special guest, Sperry. And Sperry has dedicated his life to furthering the evolution of societal, altruistic, heart-centered intelligence and two-way telepathic awareness. Sperry Andrews founded the Human Connection Institute in 1990, facilitating hundreds of groups internationally for 40 years, while pioneering empirical research into distant mental interactions with living systems. He taught everyone interested how to effectively recreate these experiences in person as well as online via webcam and largely for free. He has published and given invited presentations on human interconnectedness and human connected projects at the University of Connecticut, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the United Nations, World Business Academy, Duke University, two Foundations of Mind conferences at UC Berkeley, and the ASCSI conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I know Sperry has a varied background, and I want to go ahead and bring him up. And Sperry, before we get into the presentation tonight, if there's anything that I left out and that you would like to specifically share with people, please feel free to do so. And I'm just going to turn everything right over to you. So thank you so much for being here. It's an honor and a privilege to have you.
I'm so grateful to you, Sheila, for creating this platform where we can all meet and share and realize our enlightenment on this planet through being conscious of being consciousness together, as there's only really ever one of us. We are indivisible individuals, as Carl Jung said, and as more of us realize that we are indivisible, we'll have a chance of having a conscious civilization on this planet, paraphrasing him. So I wanted to first begin to ask us to practice a tantric, ancient practice of giving with our right eye and receiving with our left eye, so that we're sharing the seeing. So it's not my seeing or yours, it's ours. Because it's the verb of consciousness, it's the activity of consciousness that makes us indivisible. So the only real challenge and difficulty, but it's a learning experience, is that we've been hanging on to who we think we are and what we think we're doing, objectifying ourselves and being objectified from just coming in as little babies, as good little girl, good little boy. This is your mommy, that's your daddy, here's your oatmeal, that's your sister's toy, or give it back to your sister. And some way down deep, we know that it's unsurvivable to be a separate object, that we are all one, heart, body, and mind, soul, and spirit together. And that's has been the promise of all the world religions, but they were usually co-opted by the priesthood class that wanted to have their, I don't know, all the food prepared for them and all the best given to them, and that we would be simply essentially worshiping God through them. And that is appeared to these days to be the 0.001% who feel more safer or less fearful if they're controlling everybody and all the money. So that objectification from the get-go, when we come in here into 3 dimensions, from that which essentially is not controlled by length, width, and depth, that which is pure spirit, that which is our essential nature as consciousness, comes in, and by being objectified, we begin to cling to thoughts and things and activities, who we think we are, who I think you are, who you think I am, who we think this and that and the other thing is, and we are fragmented, and we get lost in the forest among the trees. So in being able to receive and reflect on this as the knowing, the verb, the activity of seeing, feeling, hearing, tasting, touching, knowing, unknowing, as the verb and the sentence of life, we can let go of being overly identified with the subject and the object of the sentence, which are nouns. So these nouns then are allowed to be incomparably unique every moment. They're constantly, now I'm getting a reverb or something. They're constantly being renewed and refreshed. In fact, at the objective level, we are incomparably unique every instant, continuously. It's not even incrementally. We are continuously fresh and new, as God said supposedly in the Bible, behold, I make all things new. Well, what else can we all be but God or goddess? We are the divine, and we are beholding the fact that we're making all things fresh and new, as that which is timeless, this eternal now, which is formless, is causing form to be deconstructed and reconstructed and represented to itself. We're like a mirror that's receiving and reflecting all that we can perceive at the level of form, and recreating it and representing it. So, as it said, we are made in the image of our Creator, and what is our Creator doing but recreating us and recreating creation continuously? And so, if we are made in the image of our Creator, then we are all together as consciousness recreating creation together. And the more consciously we're able to do that by being undivided as a single, awake, aware, fully embodied sensory, emotional, and mental phenomena, the more we're able to unite our body, heart, and mind, soul, and spirit, because the soul is basically the body, heart, and mind coming together as an intuitive intelligence, as our psyche or our soul. And so the body, heart, mind, and soul, as they become to be sensed and felt, not only individually, but indivisibly by all of us right here, right now, from here forward, of course, so that we never stop doing that. So it becomes a continuous meeting place that is indivisible, and it is lit up and turned on and joyful. As Eckhart Tolle says, we are the joy of being consciousness together. Okay, so receiving through the left eye and giving through the right eye, I look into the webcam lens and sense you all seeing my seeing and receiving as I receive your seeing. And that activity of seeing is really the pivot point, just like the axis of a bicycle wheel or a car wheel. It has to be dimensionless. It has to be unidentified, like a mirror that is causeless and objectless and choiceless. A mirror receives and reflects what we appear to be at the level of form flawlessly and faithfully. So we are tuning in, we're tuning up our infinite nature, which is brand new every moment, and we're sensing what is caused or uncaused, and continuous and unbroken and ever present about us. So if what we're doing for the next time that we're here together for this hour, a little bit less than that at this point, we can just make no effort whatsoever and relax completely and just enjoy this communion of what we are. And then in this space, we can understand the rigorous physics and neuroscience and psychology and sociology and biology from empirical science, from the work that I've done with all the top eminent scientists around the world over the last 30, 40 years. And we can explore together this experience of being in unity consciousness together simultaneously. So by being in this continuous, undivided, awake awareness, thoughts will help to orchestrate and organize our left brain, which is the newest part of us. It's like a child that has been born out of the reptile and the mammal, just like the heart-centered intelligence was born out of the eat or be eaten reptile. The heart-centered limbic system, the mammalian nervous system, arose out of the reptile so that there was the possibility of this camaraderie and safety in numbers. Our friends and neighbors, our tribe, could help us not have to be hyper vigilant all the time about dangers, about what might want to eat us or where the food might be next. And so out of those two, over hundreds of millions of years, rose up this neocortex, which is largely just the left brain, because the right brain is nonverbal. It's connected to the left brain in women with millions more neural fibers connecting through the corpus callosum. Men have millions fewer on average. And the right brain is largely nonverbal, and it's connected by the vagus nerve to the reptilian and mammalian consciousness, which by some estimates comprise about 97% of our moment-to-moment intelligence. But because of this new brain, this child that's trying to make a conceptual equivalent of who we sense, non-verbally sense and feel ourselves to be, this child is always asking the reptilian father, if you will, and the mammalian mother, "Mommy, Daddy, what's this? What's that?" And you know how children can be, like if you're on the phone and your daughter or your son is like, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy," if you've been on the phone too long, they just want to get your undivided attention again. They start missing your unconditional love, which is indistinguishable from you sharing undivided attention in a fully heart felt embodied way with them, because that's what they felt when they were growing up in your belly for 9 months. If you're the mother and the father, if you're really truly indivisible from your children, then they feel your unconditional love all the time, whether you're present or physically or not. They know that you love them continuously in this eternal now. So we all are starving for this sense of being indivisible, not just with our children or with our beloveds, but really with 8 billion people and every bug and leaf and creature and plant and animal on this planet. We are actually all indivisible. There's only one of us, because how many us's can there be, in fact? Let's contemplate that continuously for the next how many ever minutes here, please, together. So there's this wholeness, which we considered holy, which the divine is always holding as omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and that is really our destiny to be able to do that too. And all it's going to take is for us to be aware of this awakeness, that quality of awareness, which is not divided by thought. It's not divided by beliefs, by what we perceive or what we believe or who we think we are, what we think we're doing. This awakeness, this quality of awareness, which is like a mirror, again, just receiving and reflecting choicelessly without any image of its own. It is the eternal now, which is omnipresent and omniscient and omnipotent about all of us collectively. Okay, so laying that groundwork, we can talk for a moment about the physics. Going back in time, there were William Clifford, Kaluza and Klein, James Clerk Maxwell, who pioneered brilliantly the field of electromagnetism, and Louis de Broglie and several others. They said there needs to be a fourth dimension of space. And they advocated Einstein, whether that was before Einstein's time or not. They brilliantly argued for the need for a fourth dimension of space. Well, there were conservative elements, Ernst Mach being one of the most powerful of them. And he said, how do you measure the fourth dimension of space? It appears that we have no way of empirically testing whether there is a fourth dimension of space. And so they said to Einstein, look, if you're going to make a fourth dimension of space that cannot be measured, then we're not going to like what you're doing, and we're not going to accept your theory of special and general relativity. So Einstein cowed to their requirements at the Solvay conference. And he said, okay, let's let the fourth dimension be a dimension of time. Well, with the advent of quantum mechanics, which Einstein really was one of the founding fathers of, along with several other great, brilliant physicists like Erwin Schrödinger and in his wave equation, Einstein got the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect. So he was able to show the particulate nature that particles and waves are different complementary aspects of the same thing. Well, ultimately, the fourth dimension of space is a complementary aspect, seeing as it cannot be measured, it cannot be divided against itself. It's actually formless consciousness. It is timeless consciousness. It's an eternal now that cannot be divided against itself, because there's no thing to divide. So imagine how, let's say, the water molecule of hydrogen and oxygen gas, when you combine them, now you have a particle of water. But before that, you just had this very ephemeral kind of gas. And where does the hydrogen gas and the oxygen gas, where are they precisely? They're kind of everywhere and nowhere. But when they combine, they become localized as a molecule of water. In the same way that formlessness, which has no boundary, it has no beginning or end, it's timeless, it's ever present. When it combines with form, which is a three-dimensional length, width, and depth aspect, which is, if we look at our length, width, and depth, our three-dimensional nature, every coordinate location in 3 dimensions is constantly changing in relationship to each other. They're never the same. They're constantly changing. And between all dimensionless points, all coordinate locations, there are fields. There's a single field and varying forces of electromagnetism and gravity, strong and weak nuclear, which can be divvied down to a more fundamental way of looking at it. In any case, we have this constantly changing environment of complementary gravitational, which is implosive, and electromagnetic, which is radiant or explosive. And those forces really cancel to zero if we look at it in terms of form and formlessness. So every dimensionless point in 3 dimensions is radiant to all other dimensionless points, and all dimensionless points, coordinate locations, are collapsing or attempting to collapse toward every single dimensionless point. But of course, how can all dimensionless points collapse to any one dimensionless point? So we have gravity, which is very weak, seemingly, compared to electromagnetism, which is radiantly broadcasting to and through every dimensionless point. Now, since the 4th dimension of space is undivided, it is a property of every dimensionless point. And so it's said in the physics, the new physics, which has been pioneered by my most brilliant theoretical physics partner. We've been working together for 6 years. He did his PhD dissertation in Einstein. He has over 70 published papers. He's by far and away, as far as I can tell, the most brilliant genius of physics that has ever lived, way more brilliant than Einstein. And he's so rigorous, and you wouldn't be able to understand unless you're a physicist and know the language of physics. It's very hard to understand what he's saying past about the 2nd or 3rd page of his papers. But take it from me, this man is outstandingly brilliant. And he had a near-death experience when he was relatively young. I had one when I was 4 years old. So we each had existed without a body, heart, or mind as boundless consciousness. And as a result, we were able to access our combined feelings and sensations and insightful intelligence and exist as a greater body, heart, and mind, and mutually understand what each other was talking about intuitively in terms of physical language of science. And he had the vision of how humanity could be enlightened. He is a master of the history of science. He can explain to you through an 850-page book that he's written everything that has happened from the Hindu times, who understood what and what they didn't understand and what they passed on to their next generation, and how that next generation understood a little bit more, and then how that was passed on to the next generation right up to the present day, and what Einstein understood and what he didn't understand, and why he wasn't able to complete his unified field theory, and why the last 100 years of physics has been unable to integrate and find the complementarity integration of classical relativity and quantum theory, which has defied the insightfulness of 100 years of scientific research on the part of all the physicists that have lived up until this time. And Jim and I, because I was a very attuned intuitive, I wanted to understand who and what I was as nobody going nowhere forever. and he wanted to understand who he was. We were able to compare notes and actually mutually understand each other, and agree on a single model, which we've been putting forward to the scientific community now for 6 years. And some of the promise of that is that the military, industrial, political, medical 0.00001% of the financial and captains of corporate industry, if these people are going to be less fear-driven and less controlling and tyrannical, we can communicate to them how they can integrate with the rest of us and not just see us as people to get rid of and get out of their way, that they can actually feel that the greater body of humanity, the 99.9% of us, is actually part of them, who and what they truly are. And if they truly want to be happy and free-spirited in this universe, that they can let go of their evil ways and be loving and kind and helpful for all of us to be liberated together. So that's a lot of thinking there, a lot of talking. So let's come back to this effortless, formless, receptive, reflective, awake awareness that is mirror-like, that has no image of its own and is causeless, and noticing it together as the verb in the sentence of our existence. Just let go into thoughtless awakeness for a few moments here. We are, okay. So one of the requests that Sheila has made is for me to present this 5-year multimedia partnership proposal to De-Hypnotize Humanity. This is what I've really been working on for 45 years, through researching with all the top people in the world that I could enroll as friends and shared colleagues in this challenge. You know, how can 8 billion people actually come to experientially understand this common sense, to share a commonly sensed consciousness consciously, instead of sharing it so unconsciously in such a polarized way as me, you, this, that, here, then, and gone tomorrow, you know, who's got what, who doesn't have what, all of that polarization, which is so painful and terrifying and scary to be so unfelt and unseen, when all we really want is to be deeply feeling and deeply seeing together. So without naming out all these people who are really the creme de la creme, the most eminent scientists on this planet that I've come to know in all the various fields of science, I set out over 25 years ago, really actually 30 years ago, at the United Nations at the Dag Hammarskjöld auditorium. I presented at the United Nations in New York City to an audience with 5 microphones clipped to my lapel, having prepared myself by giving 3 3-hour talks out in Connecticut, where I was living at the time, to groups of 20, 30 people. So when I got in front of the Dag Hammarskjöld audience at the UN, I with 5 microphones clipped to my lapel, that I could kind of relax and be recorded. And I met some extraordinary people from making that presentation. I showed the actual neuroscientific measurements that were being done by one of the foremost neuroscientists in the world, who actually had 3 achieved the recognition and support of 3 neuroscientific laboratories to replicate his work, to show under empirical test conditions, controlled conditions, that we are indivisible on instrumentation, so that groups of 2 would be separated from each other under isolation, where there was no known way of knowing when or if we were going to be hit with a 1,000,000 candle power strobe for 3 microseconds, which has a very understandable reactive curve neuroscientifically in our central nervous system, which is the most accurate measurement that we could make at the time electrophysiologically. We could see that one of us was hit with this 1,000,000 candle power strobe, that the other person was affected in their nervous system when they were electromagnetically shielded from us in another chamber, in a different laboratory room with Faraday cage shielding. So we saw that those people who had become sensitive to each other by sharing a commonly sensed consciousness in a fully heartfelt, embodied way, especially sexually bonded couples, those who are already, had united and felt in a fully embodied way, intimately together, compared to those who were just recently met and shared eye contact, unbroken eye contact like we're doing here, and those who had never met. And we tested all these different groups of 2 under these conditions, hundreds of times. And we found that everybody was sensitive to the other person being hit with a 1,000,000 candle power strobe for 3 microseconds. But those were more emotionally bonded and more intimate from familiarity. They responded more strongly, empathically, if you will, compassionately to what was happening to their intimate partners. And this neuroscientist actually was training intimate partners to be telepathic and somatically telepathic with each other by going through trainings that I witnessed with him when I visited him a couple of times. The sad news is that this neuroscientist was kidnapped. We thought he was assassinated. He vanished off the surface of the earth. His own daughter didn't know what happened to him. But later, years later, we actually found video evidence of his wife, who we guess was a CIA agent, which is not uncommon that a CIA agent will be made to seduce the person who is the target of the CIA, the person who has the potential to exert a great deal of control over humanity in a way that would make the power elite less powerful if they don't co-opt that person. That he had been abducted using his wife, and people had thought for many years, including his daughter, that maybe his wife had murdered him, and there had been there was evidence seeded to make it look like his wife had murdered him, but we actually found video evidence seeing the 2 of them together many years later at a CIA compound, incontrovertible evidence that he was still alive, but he had never been able to communicate to his daughter that he was still alive. I mean, this is how cruel this control matrix can be. They wanted this man's intelligence and his capacity to understand and research how to control collective consciousness over the other 99.9% of us. It's really hideous, really. A whole film was made about it. I think it's called The Secret of Dr. Grinberg or something like that. I was actually interviewed in that film, if you ever want to see that. In any case, just an example of what we're up against here. So courageously. I felt like, if I really had moved this work forward 30 years ago, more than I have, that I probably would have been co-opted or killed or something. And so, because the last thing that the power elite want is the fact that the majority of people share a commonly sensed intelligence in a fully embodied way, because they wouldn't be able to control that. And so that's the thing that they're most afraid of, is that we're going to wake up and smell the roses and feel one body, heart, this one body, heart, and mind, that we actually, in fact, are together. And then they'll just be eclipsed. The light of our combined love and communion as an indivisible whole will just outshine any kind of control they have over us. And then they will be unconditionally loved and forgiven and accepted, and they'll have to unlearn their dastardly ways, either in this life or in other lives. As is true for all of us, we all have to suffer our karmic unconsciousness. In any case, that's the way the cookie crumbles, and how the cookie gets cooked, and why it gets so sweet when it is freshly baked. Any case, so let's see, where do we go from here? This 5-year multimedia partnership proposal to de-hypnotize humanity includes the fact I've been working on these films for 30 years. How do we, in both feature and documentary films, how do we invite 200 to 300 people or more, even people watching on YouTube at home as individuals? How do we invite people into this indivisible awake awareness so they feel this oneness with us? You see, so, you ever heard the term breaking the fourth wall? Well, right now, as we share unbroken eye contact, we can get audiences with batch processing. Essentially, you have 200 or 300 people in a theater audience where you're all we're all in subway consciousness, sitting in our separate seats, and yet the people on screen are awake and aware in a fully embodied way, in this enlightened collective consciousness, sensing this indivisibility of their being as 3 or 4 women and 3 or 4 men, all from the very beginning of each of the films, whether they're feature or documentary films. So the protagonists, right from the beginning of the film, if you anchor an audience using the protagonist to get the audience to fall in love with the main characters, or character in this case, hopefully you're falling in love with me, but there's really no me, there's just us, remember. There's really no separate self. As Gautama Buddha said, there's no self, and the Dalai Lama said it's not about getting rid of the self, it's realizing there was no self to begin with. And all the Eastern wisdom has said for 15,000 years that I know of, and recorded history, that there's no self. We are the void, we are this emptiness, this absence which is giving rise to our presence, this absence which is the mirror-like, causeless, formless, imageless awakeness, which we cannot divide in any way. And we're in the, just to anchor in this learning of our left brain so that we conceptually understand this ever better every moment. We're really here to train this new brain, this childlike conceptualizing feature, so that it can think about that which is causeless, that which is not objective is non-objective and objectless, so that the objectifying mind, this mind-made part of us, can anchor into this sensory and emotional field of sensory and emotional, moment to moment, the 97% of us, which is formless, and actually have our conceptualizing mind, this child, learn with and as and through our mother and father that we share collectively, and get anchored here. And then we can all be in thoughtless awareness and share a commonly sensed consciousness so that we can be thoughtlessly awake and aware without being identified with fragments, without getting lost in the forest among the trees. You see how that, by understanding that and going over it again and again, the left brain begins to get it. It begins to realize and recognize what is not an object about us, what is always indivisible about all that we are together. And we can accept this transpersonal quality, which is the major stumbling block in this awakening together into an enlightened consciousness. Now, as a species on this planet. So that's why this project, 5-year project, involves all the sciences on an empirical, objective level to verify this is authentic and real, actual, as well as bringing forward the experiential work that I've been doing with thousands of people, multicultural groups for over 40 years internationally around the world, by just noticing what we're noticing together, like we're doing right now. We're noticing the noticing through unbroken eye contact. We've done this in person by gazing together. When we do it in person, we have to do in partner pairs, one after another, partner pair, until everybody in the group of anywhere from 3 people to 30 people have gazed undividedly with each other. And as the group reaches a place where they've experienced undivided visual attentiveness with everybody in the group, if it's in person or online, whether it's audio only, works very well audio only. You can, in the early days of Skype, you could have 25, 30 people. It was amazingly effective. We just notice auditorily that we're all listening together, and we listen to the quality of our listening together. So whether it's 3 people or 30 people, all listening to the quality of our listening, and notice that our listening is undivided by thought. It's perceptually undivided as long as we're consciously noticing how indivisible our perceiving is, our feeling, our sensing, our breathing, our beings are. And when it's done on Zoom, because we need to practice being able to see as well as hear and feel and notice. With the groups I've done on Zoom, going back when there was Google Plus, or what was that one prior to Google Plus, we could see each other as well. There were groups that we met for almost 2 years together, some of us, and some of them were willing to be seen on YouTube. And you can see on my website, my institute's website, connectioninstitute.org, where connection and institute are, connection is singular, connection institute is all one word, .org. You can go there and you'll find that it's a very low tech, it's not a whoop-de-doo kind of website. It's just a lot of URLs where you can click on them and read all kinds of research documents, or if you're going the far right column, you can see a selection of video samples of these people that were with me for almost 2 years in some cases. And we met 2 or 3 times a week because we so loved going into this oneness together, and we could just talk and feel our indivisibility together without any kind of constraint, without having to observe any kind of practice of any kind, because we were so attuned to noticing our combined sensitivity. Now, there are ways to do this, and you will notice in if Sheila has some of the hyperlinks in the description below this video when it's published, you'll see that there is a 107-page e-magazine, which has, I don't know, a 64-page full-color illustration of how to go into collective unity consciousness, which, as I say, I've been offering that for free for all these many decades. And so you can, by reading that, it will teach you how to learn how this practice works. And you can practice it audiovisually or auditorily or in person or online on Zoom through those 64 pages. And then in the other remaining pages of 107, you can read the physics of it. There's my sort of toned down crossover between Jim's very rigorous physics and a more intuitively accessible physics, which I've published with Jim's help in a journal from one of our conferences. You can read, and if you are rigorously interested in studying the actual structure of how that which is dimensionless is the very groundless ground of our being, you can understand it intellectually, you can understand it emotionally, you can experience it indivisibly, and connect the right and left brains, heart and body together, and actually contemplate it with your friends and neighbors, and get the body, heart, and mind, soul, and spirit all working together as an indivisible whole through that 107-page full-color e-magazine. And there are many other periodicals on my institute's website as well, all made available for you if you're interested. Okay, so now the idea here is that through these films, we can, as I've said, break the fourth wall, bring 200-300 people or more into this sense of shared sensitivity. So by the end of a 90 to 120-minute film, everybody in the audience feels undivided from each other, and we feel what happens. And you can read in the testimonials that are also offered in that e-magazine and could be offered in the description below this video under testimonials. Some of these amazing people that, from Stanford University or some of the top scientists saying, oh my God, when I went into Sperry's group, just by him pointing us to this awareness, we went into nirvana and we felt like one with everybody, and it felt like there was only one of us within such a short space of time. It was absolutely astounding how accessible oneness and love and nirvana and unity consciousness is if we just share a commonly sensed consciousness consciously instead of so unconsciously in such a divided and polarized way as we are used to doing by being objectified and objectifying ourselves and accepting that we're being treated as an object by others, and instead offering them to share and feel sensitively with us. So you can't go over all this groundwork, enough. You have to go over and over and over and over. It's like we're breathing and feeling and sensing and knowing and unknowing and understanding and misunderstanding over and over again. And gradually through meditation and contemplation, we ultimately, and watching this video will be very helpful. If you just go over and over and you suffer me going blah, 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 you will finally say, okay, shut up, I get it, and you can contemplate this without any assistance. So use this video, watching it over and over. I found that for many decades through people watching these recordings, whether it was only audio or audiovisual, that is a training device. You can use this video or other videos that are offered on the website as to orchestrate and organize your bodies, hearts, and minds, not only individually, but together. If you watch the videos together as a group, it'll help you tune in, because we have to each make use this stepping stones to get to the other side of the river, so to speak, or to swim to the other side of the ocean that divides us from one another and from our true nature. Okay. So these films are complemented by a 24/7 free membership, which has been developed over the last 15 years. We're very close to being able to launch this free membership, where you're able to get trained through watching video tutorials, where you need to watch them all the way through, because we can actually track now electronically whether you're watching the entire video without leaving. We can tell whether you watch the entire video, so you get the full training, because we don't want people to be coming in and hackling and trying to usurp the love of our unity for their, sadomasochistic, fear-based needs to traumatize us, to help them deal with how traumatized they are, by usurping our unity, our love, because they don't want to feel what they have not fully felt and integrated and digested in their own unconscious, which is essentially why, I found from working with murderers and criminals in maximum security prisons, that essentially those people who are imposing themselves on other people selfishly, they're largely doing that in order to try to get a feeling more in control. A whole different levels of spectrum of ways. There were people who were sodomizing farm animals, all the way to successfully deceiving the top corporate people and pretending they're different people who they weren't really, and making money and just getting high off, like that Leonardo DiCaprio film, pretending he was somebody that he wasn't, and cashing fake checks. So I worked with people who were, some of those films were actually based on, in a maximum security prison. And some of the most enlightened, sensitive people were heroin addicts that were breaking into people's houses and stealing stuff to turn into money so they could pay for their heroin or fix. Because they weren't born with enough serotonin or something, so they had to get some artificial source of that. Now, these people, and it's true of us also, we any kind of insecurity that we have, we want to get this sense of undivided awake awareness from other people, or from life, or from nature, from the beauty of the sun, the beauty of the day, the beauty of the silence, the stillness of our own mind, and deep contemplative meditation, as in the TM movement. One of the top physicists, Dr. Brian Josephson, who was in the TM movement with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he was asked in one of the filmed presentations of the TM movement, why is it that transcendental meditation is so effective? And Dr. Brian Josephson, who's in charge of the Cavendish laboratories in the UK, he said, well, I think that what happens, it seems, is that when we practice the mantra, we really surrender our psychophysiology, our bodies, hearts, and minds to noticing that which is effortless and thoughtless. And our bodies, hearts, and minds recognize that undivided simplicity, that absence of anything, as that which is highly organized. And so our bodies, hearts, and minds, neurologically, biologically, psychologically, start to tune in and resonate with that which is changeless and formless about us. And we enter into thoughtless, causeless, effortless awakeness. And that's how TM works. And that's how I would say, is researching this for, assiduously for 45 years. That's really what is the whole of meditation has been about for 15,000 years, where it's said in the bone tradition, which goes back, actually, it said 18,000 years. It said, just sit down, make no effort, notice what there is to notice without complaining, if possible, and just by accepting everything to be exactly as it is. Eventually, you will enter into causeless, choiceless awakeness, and you will wake up and reach enlightenment. And so that is the basis of Dzogchen, which has been the core of Tibetan Buddhism, which arose many, many decades later, is the very core of the 14th Dalai Lama. There were Korean lamas that go back 18,000 years. There's a big statue of this brilliant, beautiful man who 18,000 years ago supposedly wanted to create unity consciousness on the planet by having everybody do what I say. So, or what he said. So this has been around and for a very, very long time. It's not just about Simon Says doing what I said. It's what everybody has advocated for a very long time. And looks like we're about 2 minutes within our time is going to be up. And so let's, we're going to have question and answer in a couple of minutes here. There's been a lot of blah, blah. So let's go into being mirror-like, send with our right eyes and receive with our left eyes through unbroken eye contact here with the webcam lens. So we are the seeing, the feeling, the sensing, the being, the knowing, the unknowing, the innocence and the ignorance of unformed and uninformed, unknowing consciousness. Free-spirited, eternal, ever-present awakeness. This beauty of being, the joy of being consciousness together. And Sheila, when you want to take over, the time is up. I've got to leave it to you to bring our time together to an end.
Well, thank you so much, Sperry. That was very, very enlightening. And I think what you're talking about is kind of like the theta brainwave connecting through the morphogenic field. Is that correct?
That's right. Well, even below theta, it said that Einstein was in dominant theta, but below that is delta. We, as children, we visit delta brainwave consciousness, which is about the length of the brainwave is from here to the moon. It's a very, very long wavelength. And when we're children, we go there 2 or 3 times a night. But as we get older and get more identified with thought, we barely ever go there again until we cultivate this conscious awareness in the way that we're doing here and make it our new way of being as 8 billion people on this planet. So delta brainwave consciousness, you can look into that on the Google and take a look at it and contemplate it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone have a question? If you do, just go ahead, unmute, and you can ask Sperry your question. Okay, Carol, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you for doing the Wish Alliance, and now it's been transformed into the Galactic Alliance, right? Thank you for doing that. Okay. And meeting people that I wouldn't normally, from other parts of the world, I wouldn't normally do that. Sperry, just an excellent presentation. I'm sort of right behind you. I'm just going to follow in your footsteps. My question is, actually, I've got maybe two. Like, what are the powers that be? What do they want? Do they want the consciousness to militarize it, to control UFOs or whatever? What I'm getting, I've got so many groups that I belong to, and they're mostly on Zoom right now because of the COVID, Omicron, monkeypox situation. I'm getting the impression that humans need to go up into higher levels of consciousness to join the cosmic community. Like, do you, or is it just that we need to just evolve on this planet?
Well, I would say we are one consciousness, and we need to become conscious of this one body, heart, and mind that we share with every bug and leaf and creature and other people on this planet as a unity, because the magnitude of our combined awake, aware embodiment is going to lift each one of us into a much more amazing. It's like the sun will be coming up in our hearts and bodies by tuning into the greater body, heart, and mind that we actually are. As long as we're divided as seemingly separate individuals, we're going to feel sort of desperate at some levels. Or now we can see that our own left brain, who we think we are and what we think we're doing, we're trying to manage our separateness in some kind of desperate way. Well, imagine that the most brilliant among us, that 0.0001% that have the capacity to control and be captains of industry and have all the money, all the trillions of dollars, these people, they figure, well, through the, what's it called? The Club of Rome, they've actually done these studies where they see that as the increasing population on the planet, as more and more, there's more and more of us, that this is undermining our ability to survive here under conventional circumstances, that they see the empirical evidence that they need to cull the population and get rid of about 95% of us. So they think that they're doing the right thing, and they're doing it in secret. That's what they're trying to do through all this nonsense that they're doing with the fake vaccine and the fake this and the fake that. So they're all just lying to us. They're not going to tell us what the truth is. They're just doing what they think is right. Of course, they're going to preserve their families and eliminate the rest of us. And what of us that they preserve, they're turning into cyborgs by inflicting us with all these nanoparticles and turning us into robots, basically, so they can shoot us off into space and go to other planets where there are microbes that humans are not used to, and that maybe some of us might survive these microbes on other planets. So it's a completely dystopian insanity that they're conceiving of. And they've written about it, and you can read all about it, even in the NASA literature going about 50 years. It's been disclosed, and if you go into it, you can really, it's absolutely horrifying what they're intending. And they've been at it and they're planning this for a very long time. They're like a piece of machinery going after the state of the world and trying to impose it on all of us. So we have to stand up for our own rights and say, hey, cut it out, guys. We've got to adjudicate you. You're psychopathic. You're sadomasochistic. You're a bunch of narcissists. You feel that you're better than everybody else, and you just dominate and try to impose your will on everybody else. So you got to stop that, because we're not going to stand for it. Okay. So That's what we got to take a stand for our human rights here, as the 99.9% of us. That is the overwhelming majority here. We've got to wake up together here. That's part of what this 5-year, multimedia partnership proposal is about, which you can all get involved with. You can act in it. You can contribute to it. You can get involved with the films at all different levels and all the educational practices at whatever level you feel called to. So it's a very inclusive way we can all move forward in a partnership together. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and I know a little bit about your life from what Sheila had typed into the email there. And I was, educated, in England and emigrated to Canada, holding counselling and payroll degrees and psychology. I worked in the corporate world in a women's shelter and a detox drug treatment centre for men. But my unconventional life, I'm retired now, but my unconventional life is in 1956, I had a daylight sighting with my cousin, of the UFO in England. And then coming over here, I went to all the UFO conventions and met Betty Hill and Travis Walton and Larry Warren. And I had a near-death experience as well.
Oh, fantastic.
That turned my life around, absolutely.
Yes.
And I wasn't me anymore.
Those NDEs, their death experiences are meeting place. We can all be one there.
We won there, yeah. I wasn't me anymore.
Okay,
I was consciousness.
Let's connect after, because I want to give a chance for everybody in the limited time we have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Carol.
Thank you, Sperry.
Hi, Allie. How are you? You have a question?
Hi. Yes, Sheila, thank you so much. I'm just so honored and grateful to be a part of this. I just want to thank everyone for the energy. It's just so great to be in community and just to know that this is real and it's happening. And as each of us, unveils more of that pure-hearted consciousness, it emanates to more and more people, and it's growing and growing. So I wanted to just touch on the subject that Carol mentioned, and that is that, we are experiencing solar cycle 25, I believe, and is a really powerful and exciting time, Carol, that you punched in to incarnate, because that solar activity that we're receiving that is not being covered in mainstream media is in fact solar consciousness. Yeah. So as the sun emits this solar energy, and perhaps, Sperry, you can jump in and talk more about that, but we are being transformed in all aspects of self, mind, body, spirit into this heart-centered consciousness of love, which is really who we all are at our center and core being is love. So I really wanted to mention that because I know, if you tune into the 3D, it's all very fear-based. We've got climate change, we've got all sorts of strange viruses circulating. But when you really go sort of into the layers of it, we are all experiencing like this really incredible, profound awakening, and it's really divinely guided. And so I want you to know, like, as a child of light, that we are divinely guided through this experience of awakening right now on our planet. And I just want to leave it there. It's not so much a question, but maybe Sperry or Sheila, you can touch on it.
I mean, you're echoing what we've been saying here and sharing. When you say, the fact is that, I mean, how Sheila and I, when we first met and spoke, we both identified as having come from the 7th dimension, which is when you get above the 6th dimension, there's no evil, negative forces, even if it's only 5%. In the 7th dimension, where I come from, I took birth as a human being I heard the calling that the earth needed some help here. But in the 7th dimension and above, it's just, you're in heaven consciousness. You're all in oneness. You're in unconditional love, incomparably unique every moment. There's no internal organs. There's no you, me, and this, that. It's just all one consciousness, all love, unconditioned love. And it's so beautiful because all you know is the joy of being. And so you're totally, so when I came here, I thought it was going to take about a week or two. I had no idea what it was like on the earth. It was like such a shock. It was like, oh my God, you can't even get people to look at the oneness and the indivisibility because it reminds them of how they've been traumatized from when they were, from the get-go, from when they were first born as little babies, and they were objectified and treated as separate and isolated by their mothers and fathers, by the very people they depended upon for their very survival as a three-dimensional embodied being. So three-dimensional has a lot of demands, but it's just an extension of that which is spaceless and timeless. As it expands as an ever accelerating rate, it has to go into this more dense form of three dimensions. And so we're here at the cutting edge of that expansion that is exponentially occurring ever more rapidly. And we're actually are making more observations per unit area of space-time. That is the awakening of form-based embodiment. We're actually able to notice more every moment indivisibly by being aware of awareness. And that's how we're going to anchor in this three-dimensional level that is otherwise divided by space and time, energy and matter, you and me, and this and that. So three dimensions does not need to be divided. It doesn't need to be made be wrong, or or we don't need to feel helpless about it. We can be helpful about uniting it as an undivided whole. So thank you so much, Allie, and love with you and yours there, dear one. Who else has a question, please?
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions? Any comments? Okay.
You can just say, shut up, Sperry, you talk too much.
You know what? We are doing what we do. And thank you so much for being here and sharing this information. It was very, very comprehensive. And so I think a lot of people are still digesting some of what was shared with them tonight. So thank you very much for doing that. And also, do you have any final comments or thoughts that you would like to share with everyone?
Yes, thank you. I think that to summarize, you see how it's sort of the attempt to comprehend conceptually with this new brain. It's like a new child, that like a baby saying, asking the reptilian and the mammalian heart-centered intelligences, which are about 90, as I've said, about 97% of our moment-to-moment intelligence. Instead of the child eclipsing that through being overly identified with our conceptual version of who we think we are and what we think we're doing and what we think everybody else is doing, to instead become aware of what we're sensing and feeling non-verbally, and allow the new brain, this conceptualizing feature, to make a conceptual version of what is sensed and felt. So the body, heart, and mind function together seamlessly. And as we all learn to do that, all 8 billion of us ultimately, with all the bugs and leaves and creatures and animals and plants on the planet, we're just going to come into the most incredible nirvana of joy and transcendental unity that is eternal, the eternal bliss of being beyond your wildest imaginings of how gorgeous it is. Like Sheila and I know it to be, and I'm sure many of you have come, our starseeds have come from other dimensions, and you know what I'm talking about here. So we've come here to help, get us in focus, basically. And so the hard part is to digest all this blah, 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 blah through the conceptual left brain so that we can anchor in this left brain, this conceptualizing feature, so that it is attuned to what is non-verbally sensed and felt. So the body, heart, and mind function together as a unity, and then we access our intuitive intelligence, which is our psyche, which is our soul. And through that body, heart, mind, and soul, psyche, or spirit, or we're able to, soul and psyche and intuitive intelligence, we're able to access the unity of our spiritual intelligence, which we all share as an undivided whole. That word spirit, which means all, that word spirit means everything. Everything is pure spirit. So that's my mom, when I asked her, I said, Mom, is there a word for everything being one thing? And she said, yeah, son, that when I was 6, yeah, it's the word spirit. I thought, oh, thank heavens, there's a single word that means everything. And so we are that which means everything. And we mean it, we all mean everything together. And we're so meaningful. We're not used to feeling that we're meaning everything with everybody we know and everything we possibly can conceive of, but it's the actual truth of the matter. And so we just relax and let go, like it's been said for 18,000 years. Just make no effort, accept and allow everything to be exactly as it is, and we'll enter into this thoughtless awakeness, and all of our thoughts and feelings and sensations will coalesce into this orchestrated, organized, effortless unity, and we will enter into nirvana. And that's why the bodhisattva cannot cross over into nirvana until all sentient beings are in touch with the source of happiness. This is the reason for that, is because there is no separate self. So the bodhisattva cannot cross over until all sentient beings are in touch with the source of happiness, because the bodhisattva has to keep coming back until even every blade of grass, as is said, is in touch with the source of happiness. And if you look at micrographs of blades of grass, look up micrographs of blades of grass, you'll see all the blades of grass are all smiling happily. So don't have to worry about the blades of grass getting enlightened, because they're all happy already. Even though we're cutting them with lawnmowers and everything, the grass is completely happy. And I'm not talking about marijuana here, but I'm sure the marijuana is very happy too. That's why we got all these amazing ayahuascas and DMT and everything else from. The plants have been evolving. They found in the Genome Project, they thought that humanity, we've got a few more moments here, looks like in the big Genome Project they spent billions of dollars on, they thought they'd found that humanity had many more genes than any animal or plant, because we're so superior to all of the plants and animals. But when they found out, is they found that the rice plant that lives in freezing conditions, soaking in water every day, exposed to the exigencies of nature, that the simple rice plant that grows in rice paddies had twice as many genes as the human genome. It's like, wow, talk about self-effacing reality. Because the rice plant has to deal with a lot more challenges than the human being. We're able to build structures around ourselves so we can avoid the exigencies of nature, so that we can focus on refining our inanities and our insanities socially, to wake up and share a common sense consciously together instead of sharing it so unconsciously. So it's very humbling to realize that there is no way to divide who and what we are into pieces and parts. We are the PEACE, all the puzzling pieces that make us up. When we're aware of the PEACE, all those puzzling pieces just all fall into place. The puzzle is solved. We all see the bigger picture together, and we are in the state of the bliss of the peace that passeth the need for understanding. So then you don't need to listen to people like Sperry Andrews just pointing to the sense of it all at a conceptual level, because it'll already make perfect conceptual sense to you, and you won't need to understand it conceptually anymore. You'll already understand it conceptually and sensorially and emotionally, and you'll understand it with everyone and everything and every blade of glass that are all happy with smiley faces.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Sperry, can you tell people one more time how they can reach you, or maybe even put your email in the chat for people?
Sure enough. Well, I can give it to you and I'll put it here in the chat. Yeah, I'd be very happy to hear. I can't, because I've got thousands of people that I'm conversing with all the time. It has to be very, mutually meaningful in service to the greater good of all, essentially, if at all possible, if you will. So we're all in service to this awakening, and then we can collaborate on that together. And then I have plenty of time for that, because that's what I'm consumed by, every moment of my life, basically. It's getting pretty overwhelming as more and more people get tuned in together. So hopefully at a certain point it will shift. Here's my email address in the chat to everyone. There you go. You can also find it on my website, which is if you just put it into your search engine after the @ sign or the ampersand connectioninstitute.org, and you can see in the contact on the lower left-hand corner of these 3 columns on my institute's website, you'll find my contact address. Again, if you forget it or lose it. I'd love to hear how we can collaborate meaningfully and actually strategically. If you just want to send an email and say, all the love in the universe with you, dear one, I would love to receive that. Thank you. And because there's only, when you hold a child or a dearly beloved to your heart, what happens? Recognize what happens. We feel them feeling us, feeling them feeling us, feeling them feeling us, feeling them. And that sense of shared sensitivity is a state of sharing undivided, awake, aware consciousness, right? Well, that's a state of undivided attention. And when we share undivided attention in a fully heartfelt, embodied way with our beloveds, with our children, and those, our friends and neighbors, and anybody who will hug us and feel that with us, that sense of sharing undivided attention in a fully heartfelt, embodied way is indistinguishable from unconditional love. It's this communion of unity, which is our birthright. It's what our essential nature is to be timeless and standing for this eternal now, which has no beginning or end. It never began. It's no body. It is timeless. It's uncreated, as is said, and deathless. It's said that if we wake up in life, this goes back, said throughout the yogic literature, if we wake up in life, or another way of saying it is, if we die to who we think we are in life, and we realize who we really are, then when we physically die, we don't die. We continuously remain in this continuity of awake, aware consciousness, and we just transition from mortal three-dimensional life into the afterlife, which is so exquisite. Oh my God, this friend of ours, I was introduced to my physics partner, Dr. James E. Beekler. You'll be able to read James's work. It's astounding. I'd highly recommend it if you have any background in physics or can look at it, or even the first 2 or 3 pages of Jim's work are outstandingly wonderful. He's also a scientific historian. He can explain everything that has happened for the last, couple thousand years, right up to the present moment.
And do you have a link on your website or information about him that people can download or look at?
I have links to his papers.
Okay, beautiful.
generally speaking, in most of my, in the descriptions below many of my videos, you'll find his links. And if you write to me, you ask for them, I can send them to you, etc. Along with the 5-year partnership proposal, how you can read that. It's a summary. And if you go into the hyperlinks in the text of that summary, you'll find his links and many other links of other scientists.
And can
You know how
provide
when you
his name again, please?
Yes, his name is James or Jim E. period Beikler, Beichler, Dr. James E. Beikler. You can go on academia.edu, that's academia.edu. I can put that here. You can look up Jim, I'll write it out here. Hopefully I can spell.
Okay, well,
There you
Sperry,
go.
we really, we appreciate you being here with us tonight. And we now have all your links. If people want more information, they can go to theconnectioninstitute.org, or you can reach out to Sperry at theconnectioninstitute.org. And then also, if you would like to catch the replay, you can catch the replay of this presentation on the Galactic Alliance. You can also catch us on the CAN network. And if you have not downloaded our apps, please do so. You can download the Conscious Awakening Network on your phone. You can visit the website or Roku, Amazon, Apple TV. And I would like to thank our partners. A special shout out to Bridget Renee Holiday with Awaken Ascending. Thank you so much for always being here and sharing this out over the Clubhouse format and platform for us. We really appreciate that. And all the replays too on Portal to Ascension and New Realities. And so I want to again thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your time, your attention, sending everyone much, much love. Again, I want to remind you about our free Soul Vibes with Jenny G on January the 21st, and then the fundraiser that we have for the Galactic Alliance through the Portal to Ascension platform on January the 29th or 28th and 29th. And so we hope that you'll be joining us there. So until we're all back together again next time, much love to everyone and namaste. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Much love. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Love you.
Thank you.
Love with you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.